We're going to kick off, though, with a story about why Google shares are going down. They're down about 12% over the last couple of days following the launch of their nice ChatGPT competitor called Bard. Bard is supposed to be a thing you can ask about discoveries of stuff and find out information from, and they had in their advertising promo, which I actually saw, I thought before the news kind of came out. I thought I'd seen this somewhere. They were asking a question about the discoveries from the James Webb Telescope. It claimed that it took the first picture of an exoplanet. That's not true. The first picture of an exoplanet was taken by the Very Large Telescope in Chile, Antofagasta, which I thought was a mining company. But there you are. And the stock is going down because Bard doesn't look very good and everyone's talking about ChatGPT. As far as I can tell, that's the story. Buying it, Steve?
I would if I had some cash. Yeah, I think this is much ado about nothing. I think a lot of people say, no, well, Google's rushed this product out, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, we're talking about a product here that they didn't build overnight. I think this product has been in the works. It's probably been popped to one side because they think it's fairly useless. And I think anybody who's used ChatGPT more than a couple of times will probably agree that it's mostly useless. You can do a few fun things on it, but I wouldn't. I mean, like people say, no, like it did my itinerary for a trip to Seattle. I was like, would you really want it to be doing that? I'm not sure that's what I'd want it to do. So I think it has some use. The people who are predicting the end of Google here is like, I think that's crazy, and I think that's been reflected in the share price. I think this is utterly crazy. It's like people seem to forget that like Apple didn't invent the mobile phone; they just made it better, and they've made a whole huge company out of being second to the market. And I think Google has the team to make their product better than OpenAI. It will be iteratively better over time, especially if Google choose to leverage their workforce onto it. It's a considerable amount of people. So I'm nonplussed about both of them, to be honest. I think this is going to be a flash in the pan, and I think I'd be surprised if we're even talking about it. I mean, here's one to hang your hat on, but I'd be surprised if we're even talking about this next year.
Oh, nice February prediction. Okay, so I have a couple of thoughts about this. There's a couple of reasons why Bard and ChatGPT might worry me personally. So one is for my job. I have a job educating people, and if they come up with a good enough version, could a chatbot replace kind of what I do, basically? And from what I've seen so far, I mostly doubt it. And I also think that if they do, it's a long way off. So I'm not worried for my living just yet. The other reason it might worry me is as a Google shareholder or an Alphabet shareholder. So ChatGPT, if that gets a serious jump on Bard, and if this is the future of search, then Google's under pressure, because that is where nearly all of what Google's revenue comes from, search one way or another, or stuff to do with that search ecosystem. So the question then becomes, am I convinced that ChatGPT is significantly better, or can it convince people that it's significantly better? And is this the future of search? And the answers, I think, are no, I don't know, and I don't think so. So I'm not convinced it's any better. ChatGPT appears to be kind of too full of holes to be trustworthy, which throws kind of interesting non-investing questions for me a little bit. I mean, if you believe everything you wrote when you punched something into Google and asked it for answers and so on, I think that you ought to be a bit more careful when you look on the internet. I think one of the things that's a general problem is there's lots of disinformation on the internet, but still people are happy to kind of Google an answer and believe what they kind of find, which is possibly a kind of wider society problem, not my problem as an investor. Do I think that they can convince people that ChatGPT is better? Maybe. I mean, I'm not actually convinced that Google search is that much better than every other search thing that I've seen. I just think it's the one that's there first and biggest, and I mean, it massively dominates at the moment, and I'm not entirely sure it's anything other than a kind of first mover good product advantage. So that might be the kind of danger with this. But I'm not sure I see this as kind of the future of search, talking to kind of AI chatbots, or at least not in my lifetime anyway. I haven't felt the temptation to go look at ChatGPT yet. And there will come a point in my life where I think I'm done with technology now. I'm happy with the stuff that I have. It happened to my grandmother, who refused to use kind of automatic paying in machines at the bank, because she thought, I can't be bothered to learn this. I'm getting up there in years. What's the need? I can just give it to a human. That time will come for me, but that time isn't now. And I don't really feel the need to AI answers to questions and stuff just yet. It might be fun, but I think when I look for an answer, I'm still likely to look in a search, and I'm still likely to look in Google, and I'm not sure that's a particularly deviant or unique or idiosyncratic view.
Yeah, I think people seem to be missing the wider point, really. Google is not just search. I know it brings in a lot of their revenues, but Google has a lot of products that tie you to search. So Google has Maps, which is the most used map service. Google has Google Photos. Google has YouTube. Google has the Pixel range. Google is a lot more than just a search engine. It has a lot of tools that tie people into search. I think I was reading the other day that Google Photos is used by 2 billion people, I think it was, and Google Maps is by far the most used map program on the internet. Obviously, YouTube we all know about. No search, Bing is not going to replace. Is not going to replace YouTube advertising. So straight away, you know that part is never going to disappear. Then there's the Pixel range of phones that's not going to be affected by ChatGPT. So the fact that people are trying to strip off massive amounts of Google here because of this seems to me like they're trying to induce a bit of panic selling. And we've been guilty of a panic sell before today, Steve, and I think we should not fall for it this time, because this time I think people are missing the bigger picture somewhat.
Yeah, I've been guilty of a couple of panic sells in the past. Two that stick out were Enquiries, which was more of a short report than news breaking about its inefficiency or anything like that, and the other was Albemarle, both of which I kind of got stuck into panic selling. Those are quite a while ago now, or they feel like quite a while ago, and I've sat fairly tight on these. I sat fairly tight on Meta in its various panic selling phases, and I do have cash available, and I thought, yeah, I quite like Alphabet shares at this point, at least relative to a bunch of other things I could do with the cash, like put it in bonds or even put it in Amazon or other stocks here. I can't see anything that I think is more attractive to me at the moment.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of there with you, really. I mean, before you pointed out that I was so badly down on Amazon, I think Google was the most obvious place for my cash. And I think come April, if we're still in this kind of scenario, hopefully it's even better. Maybe that's where it'll go for me.
Yeah, Google. One of the things I like about Alphabet as a stock, and I mentioned this I think last week when I talked about Apple, is that Apple's buyback policy is running out of cash. I mean, it will have to use the cash it generates, and that's fine, but it's kind of accelerated use up the cash on the balance sheet thing is running out of room. I think Google has quite a bit of room to manoeuvre with this. They do have significant amounts of cash available. If their stock goes down, I'm not sure they would be above buying back stock. If you'd asked me sort of a fortnight ago, I would have said absolutely no chance. But just lately, a bunch of companies that I wasn't expecting to be buyback heavy in this situation, I was expecting them to kind of lean into difficult times, lower prices, tougher opportunities to invest and try and pick up some stuff while it was cheap. And they're actually buying back as well. So Meta being the obvious example here. I wasn't particularly expecting to see that happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a quick look, Steve, while we were talking there about Google products, that some of them are at market and being, that are chargeable, and some of these aren't. And I just thought, I wonder if people really understand how big Google has actually become. So I'm going to just quickly reel off the ones in here that you should obviously know about or you will have heard of. So they've got Android Auto, Android TV, Calendar, Chrome Enterprise, Chromebook, Chromecasts, Contacts, Docs, Drawings, Drive, Earth, Google Finance, Google Forms, Gboard, which is Google's keyboard, Gmail, Google Alerts, Google Assistant, Google Cast, Google Chat, Google Classroom, Google FI, I wonder what that is. That sounds interesting.
Google Fit. Financial independence.
Could be, yeah. Google Fit, Google Maps, Google Meet, Google One, Google Pay, Google Photos, Google Play, Google Play Books, Google Play Games. So that's just a few of those off the top of my head, which are massive products. You're forgetting YouTube, YouTube Music, YouTube Kids, YouTube TV, Waze, Pixel Books, Podcasts, Search, Sheets, Google Translate, Google Slides. This is way more than just a search engine. And if Google has to start charging for these things, Nest is one of these things I always forget that Google own, which looks after cameras and doorbells and things like that. But if some of these things are things that Google has to, charge a subscription for access to replace search, then that's probably going to be a net negative to society. So I would imagine that Google's Bard will be just as good as ChatGPT, in that I think they're both going to be crap.